You appear to be comfortable with Mr. Epstein in this photo. Would you disagree with
So
that characterization?
You're creating a characterization. He's already responded to your question about the picture.
I'm comfortable with a lot of people. I'm comfortable here. I'm not happy, but I'm comfortable. And my conscience is clear, that helps. If that, let me see it. Okay.
Mr. President, we have about 5 minutes remaining in the majority's first hour, so I just want to ask you some questions related to the crimes committed by Mr. Epstein and Ms. Maxwell. Did you ever witness Mr. Epstein sexually abuse or assault young women or girls?
No,
Did you ever witness Mr. Epstein receive massages from young women or girls?
not that I recall.
Did Mr. Epstein ever discuss sexual acts of any kind with you?
No,
Did you ever have any sexual contact with young women or girls in the presence of Epstein or Maxwell?
no,
Did you ever have sexual contact with any young woman or girl introduced to you by Epstein or Maxwell?
no,
Mr. President, with the benefit of hindsight, were there things you witnessed that could have suggested that Epstein was trafficking and sexually abusing young women and girls?
I do not believe so.
We will go off the record.
We can go back on the record. Mr. President, good morning.
Good morning.
My name is, and I'll be doing most of the questioning for the minority today. First, I want to thank you for your long and distinguished service to this country. I also want to thank you for your time today. We appreciate it. Before we get to questions, I'd like to take a few minutes and highlight some context that we think is relevant for today's conversation. President Trump had a long-standing personal relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. That is not a secret, it is well documented, and I think the public and everyone in Congress understands that at this point. President Trump does not like talking about his long-standing personal relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. I think we've all seen that as well. On November 12th of last year, Oversight Committee Democrats released emails that were obtained from the estate of Jeffrey Epstein. In one email from 2011, Epstein said to Ghislaine Maxwell that President Trump was, quote, that dog that hasn't barked, and that an unnamed victim, quote, spent hours at my house with him. In another email from 2019, Epstein wrote that, quote, of course he, referring to President Trump, knew about the girls as he asked Ghislaine to stop. I'd like to enter as Minority Exhibit A, Oversight Democrats press release from November 12th, 2025, titled House Oversight Committee Releases Jeffrey Epstein Email Correspondence Raising Questions About White House Cover-Up of Epstein Files. And that includes both the emails that I just mentioned. There was a fair amount of public attention on those emails, and 2 days later, President Trump asked the Department of Justice to investigate Epstein's relationships with yourself, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, and J.P. Morgan Chase. You are, of course, a former Democratic president of the United States. Notably, President Trump did not include any Republicans in his demands. Later that day, Attorney General Pam Bondi posted on social media that the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York would comply with President Trump's directive and take the lead on the investigation. I would like to enter as Minority Exhibit B, Attorney General Bondi's post on X, which also includes President Trump's post on Truth Social. It is well understood that you had a personal relationship with Mr. Epstein, and we will talk about that today, but the events I just described color our perspective on the conversation. It appears as if you and other Democratic figures have been targeted by President Donald Trump in an attempt to distract the American people from his own long-standing relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. And if that were true, it would not be the first time that President Trump has targeted his political enemies under the guise of law enforcement. This deposition is occurring in the context of unprecedented weaponization of the Department of Justice by Donald Trump. You may have a perspective on this of your own, so before we get started, I just want to give you the opportunity to share any thoughts you might have on that subject.
I think I'll let you ask me some questions, and then maybe at the end I'll say something.
That sounds fine. Thank you. I'd like to start our conversation with a few foundational questions so we can just set the record straight from the very beginning. With respect to your relationship with Mr. Epstein, did you ever, at any point during your interactions with Jeffrey Epstein, know about the sexual abuse that he was committing against minors and young women?
No,
Have you ever engaged in sexual activity with a person introduced to you by Jeffrey Epstein?
no,
With respect to your relationship with Ms. Ghislaine Maxwell, did you ever, at any point during your interactions with Ghislaine Maxwell, know about the sexual abuse that she committed and facilitated against minors and young women?
no,
Have you ever engaged in sexual activity with a person introduced to you by Ghislaine Maxwell?
no,
Have you ever, at any point, visited Jeffrey Epstein's former estate on Little St. James Island in the U.S. Virgin Islands?
no,
In February of last year, Attorney General Pam Bondi said on Fox News that you traveled on Mr. Epstein's plane, quote, because it supposedly had a bed in there where Jeffrey Epstein had young girls. I will ask you, did you fly on Mr. Epstein's plane because it had a bed where Jeffrey Epstein had young girls?
no.
Are there any other accusations that have been made against you with respect to Mr. Epstein that you'd like to address before we get started with some chronological questions?
Well, I think you pretty well covered it. Thank you.
Thank you. I will ask a series of chronological questions. I'd like to try to create one clear chronological record. Some of that might be repetitive from what you've already talked about. I will try to keep that to a minimum. All of these questions are from a long time ago. If you don't recall anything about what I'm asking, just let me know. Starting with events before and during your presidency, the earliest known link that we're aware of between yourself and Mr. Epstein is that he made a pair of campaign contributions to you in 1992. There was a $1,000 contribution to your presidential election committee in January 1992, and another $1,000 in June to the Clinton-Gore General Election Compliance Fund. I imagine a lot of folks donated $1,000 to your campaign. Do you have any specific recollection or knowledge of those particular contributions?
No, I think this is the first time I've ever known that.
Thank you. That takes us into your time as president. You were elected in November of 1992 and inaugurated in January of 1993. Mr. Epstein visited the White House a number of times while you were in office. Our understanding is that Mr. Epstein visited the White House 17 times between 1993 and 1995. I am not going to walk you through each of those visits. I'm just going to break them into categories. I think first, with respect to the only Epstein visit where it is publicly known that you either met Mr. Epstein or had some interaction, was the White House Historical Association reception that you mentioned earlier. I know there's a photograph that you mentioned of yourself and Mr. Epstein meeting. Am I right that you have no specific recollection of meeting Mr. Epstein or Ms. Maxwell at that event?
I don't.
Okay. With respect to the other 16 times that Mr. Epstein came and went, and that spanned 1993 to 1995, am I right that you have no specific recollection of meeting Mr. Epstein any of those times?
No, I don't think I did, and I don't know who he saw.
It's been publicly reported that in March of 1995, there was a fundraiser in Palm Beach that you attended and that Mr. Epstein also attended. Other guests reportedly included Jimmy Buffett and investor Ron Perlman, who may have hosted the event at his home. Do you have any specific recollection of that event?
I remember going there in 1995. I have now seen the picture with Jeffrey Epstein and Jimmy Buffett. I recognize Jimmy Buffett. He was a longtime friend of mine. He performed for me twice in my second term as president. And we were friends for the rest of his life. But that's it. I don't know if he knew Mr. Epstein. I had no idea what that picture was. I didn't remember it.
And so is it right that you have no specific recollection of meeting Mr. Epstein
No, I don't.
at that fundraiser, just for the transcript?
Yeah.
I'd like to introduce as Minority Exhibit C an article from the Daily Beast titled "Jeffrey Epstein Visited Clinton White House Multiple Times in Early 90s." That article is dated July 24th, 2019. Once you receive it, I'll just direct you to page 8 of the article that you're about to receive.
Okay.
It's not dated.
I'll give you a moment to look that note over, and then I'll read the relevant portion into the record. Page 8.
So that's-
Yeah.
this one.
Okay. Yep.
So you can see here that on April 27th, 1995, Lynn Forrester, now Lynn Forrester de Rothschild, sounds like served on a few committees or boards under your administration, wrote you a note. I'll just read part of that note out loud. "Dear Mr. President, it was a pleasure to see you recently at Senator Kennedy's house. There was too much to discuss and too little time. Using my 15 seconds of access to discuss Jeffrey Epstein and currency stabilization, I neglected to talk to you about a topic near and dear to my heart, namely affirmative action and the future." And that's the end of the relevant portion. I just wanted to ask whether you have any specific recollection of this note or of your conversation with Ms. Forrester.
I don't.
As far as you can remember, at this point in the middle of 1995, how would you have characterized your relationship with Mr. Epstein?
It would be virtually non-existent.
Do you recall any other interactions that occurred between yourself and Mr. Epstein during your time in office that have not already been mentioned today?
No. I think I've told you everything I know.
In October of 1999, toward the end of your time in office, we know that Epstein contributed $20,000 to the First Lady's joint fundraising account. Would you have any memory or knowledge of that particular contribution?
No, was that for a White House related thing?
No, joint fundraising, he means the Senate.
Oh, no, I didn't know that.
Okay, I am going to move to the years after your presidency. We'll do this in chronological order as well. Your second term ended in January of 2001. In December of 2001, the New York Post reported that you and Ms. Maxwell had dinner at a New York City restaurant called Nello's. Do you have any specific recollection of that dinner?
No. How did I know? I didn't. Nor do I remember the article.
So moving into 2002, you touched on this in the previous round. It sounds like there were two meetings. We don't have exact dates for them, but one of them was at your office in Harlem with Mr. Epstein. The other was at Mr. Epstein's home in New York City. Could you just repeat for us, what do you recall about each meeting, maybe starting with your office in Harlem?
I just remember that sometime in 2002, I think, that he paid a visit, and he had become, I think it was either after or just before we started the flights. But he obviously was going to be a serious supporter of the foundation, and I think he paid a visit. I was flattered he wanted to see my office. I liked it.
And then the meeting at his home in New York City, did I hear you say in the previous hour that Mr. Epstein was not actually there?
I said that when I wrote my book and talked about it, and when I've talked about it in the past, I realized I talk as if he were there, and of course he was there. And I started trying to picture the nice man on the staff that showed me around. And now I'm just being honest, I don't remember whether he was there or not. He could have been there, but I don't remember.
As far as you can recall, would the purpose of that meeting also have been related to Mr. Epstein's support of your work through his plane, for example?
Yeah, the reason we went by, regardless of who was there, was that my staff we finished an event in New York City that at a place, and Lord knows how many I've done since then, I don't remember what it was for, but it was in New York City. And my staff aide said, we're only a couple blocks from Epstein's house. It's a converted elementary school. He's very proud of it. And I think, it'd be a nice thing to do since it's early. You could just go by and take a look at it. So that's what we did.
Do you recall seeing anything or anyone in his home that was suspicious or reflected abnormally young women or girls?
No, the only people I saw there that night were staff. And him if he was there, I just don't remember.
Do you recall seeing any images of young girls or women at Epstein's home?
No.
So moving to some of the travel on Mr. Epstein's plane, and we have specific dates for a lot of that. I'd like to move through that chronology of known trips, just one at a time in order. To begin, flight logs indicate that on February 9th of 2002, and we'll give you the logs, you flew on Mr. Epstein's plane from Miami to Westchester County, New York, with Epstein, Maxwell, and some others. And you mentioned this flight in the previous round as well. I will introduce that flight log as Minority Exhibit D. And we'll give you a moment to receive that and take a look at it.